Right, so let's do naps for day one. Clearly mine's Gaelic Warrior, but I'll stick it in a double with Blue Lord. Both win. George, what do you like?
Runwell Fred.
Easy. Daryl?
Tell me something, girl.
Jamie, put up Honeysuckle.
Tell me something, girl.
Oh, 2 votes. Right.
How many Morettis did you have with you before I came on here? Come on.
This is what I mean. People genuinely, and this is no disrespect to you three that's on it, but people just like try and blow over it, right? Hello and welcome to the ultimate Cheltenham Festival preview. Not only have you got me talk about horses, we have Jamie Wren, who's been at work, so he's actually sober. We've got Daryl Carter, Betfair ambassador. I mean, basically an ambassador, right? And then George Hartley, who is very, very knowledgeable. I mean, that's as much as I can sell you up, George. Unless you've got anything to add, George? Anything to add?
No, that'll do for now, Dave. Let everyone else make their own mind up.
Yes. So I'm gonna try and keep. Daryl's already laughing. I'm trying to keep this.
He was the best judge of all time at the Dublin Racing Festival. A friend of mine told me.
So we've already had Jamie's first instance where no one's got a fucking clue what he said. But many more of those will come for this evening. We'll try and keep it as concise as we can. I basically want to know races where everyone's bullish and has got a bit of an opinion in it. Obviously, people know that the previews have been necessarily done to death, but they haven't. It's just people copying each other's opinions. We all have our own voice, so I'm happy for us to talk. I was going to put a little timer up, but I won't. We'll just go with it. If it starts getting a little bit too much, then I'll try and rein us in the edit. So before we kick off with anything for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, anyone new to the channel, please subscribe. But really, we need to find out if you've got any controversial opinions, any naps, any best bets, anything like that beforehand you want to talk about. Because, Daryl, you were pressing George for a question beforehand, and I said, I don't want you to talk about it until we get on there. George, you weren't going to give away a nap, but you were going to give away a horse that you're far too deep into, and probably now you're regretting it. Is that right?
Yeah. Far too deep on Tiger over the cross country, which isn't really a race you want to be too deep on, is it? Let's be honest. For ages, just thought he's the best horse by miles, and then this Prengard turns up and you think, oh shit, and then there's all the rain forecast over the weekend. I know it's not quite as bad as it was now, and if it turns up soft or heavy, then could be in a bit of bother there, but we'll see how we get on. He's an old favourite, so I'll forgive him if he didn't quite do it, but we'll see.
The thing is, it won't be soft or heavy on the cross-country course anyway, because it's dry as a bone in the middle of the course, isn't it? And Michael Luby, off of old Twitter sphere, who everyone knows is a decent judge, has just said that Tiger will absolutely bounce in with literally in a canter. So
is he going to pay me out then?
He does. He's best of guaranteed money back special, Michael Luby, for the Cheltenham Festival. Right. Daryl, have you got on mute? Done us all a favour?
Yeah. Dave, what we should do quickly is go round to Jamie and to yourself and find out who you two are who you are balls deep in. Not in.
I can't say her name on a live stream, I'm afraid. No, so I haven't been doing too much of the punting, but I have started to get a little bit now. So I'm not too far deep in the gopher, to be honest with you, because he's going to win. So that's a happy winner. I've started to back a couple. There's one I'm going to talk into in a little bit that I reckon all three of you are going to slate me for. And there's a very good chance we won't even make it out of the first day. Jamie, have you got stuck into anything yet?
I suppose the worst one I got two balls deep, and it was Fernie Hollow, obviously. At the moment, it's probably State Man and the Martin Pipe, yeah.
Oh, Daryl, what have you got? No, you're sensible. Don't, even if you have got one, don't say it. This is going to be put out to 20, 30 people.
Gamble responsibly, Daryl.
Yeah, of course, gamble responsibly. But State Man, I've been backing him for months for a good while for the Martin Pipe. But I've just started backing Langer Dan as well. So I'm quite deep on the pair of those, and an upset there would be devastating, I think.
Okay, well, let's start talking about actual horse racing, because that's already depressed me going on about fucking Langer Dan. Sorry for swearing. Is 18-year-old content. If your children heard that in the living room again, I'm really sorry.
Just to let you know, right, Langer Dan, right, just in Cork in Ireland, right, if you're called a Langer, you're called a wanker. So he's called Wanker Dan. So he will fuck up us on the day.
Absolute beauty.
I'm telling the truth.
Right,
you don't doubt it.
Knowledge. Right.
So you'll have State Man coming up the straight, and then here comes Wanker Dan to fucking kill us right away.
We just got to make sure we have the Irish subtitles on when we're listening to it, don't we? Right, let's get on with the Supremes. I said I'm going to keep this concise. Don't make me put a timer on us. So Supreme, everyone knows the standard bit of play, really. Still a bit of a guessing game of where William Mullins is going to send a couple of his ponies. But we've talked about this one before. I don't think opinions have massively changed on who we like in there. I just think it's really worth mentioning, especially with the likes of John Bon, because if one of the William Mullins horses doesn't go, then John Bon's going to start to be a bit of a fan's favourite. Jamie Codd talked about Dice Like Dynamo, saying he was a bit lit up in his race, didn't he? And that was a bit of a concern towards the festival and prelims and things like that. Henrietta Knight said that she thinks Dice Like Dynamo is the complete and utter deal. She says he's got a lovely temperament, so what do you do? Judge it by a woman that's seen him on TV or a jockey that's been in a race with him? But John Bon, we talk about him sweating up and all those things. I don't think he's that bad. I saw him at Newbury and hurdling because I wanted to see what he was like temperament-wise. Looks like a horse possessed, shows loads of white of the eye, but he races with earplugs. So God forbid, when he's running around, imagine them popping out. Imagine literally being deaf your whole life, and then all of a sudden it pops open to the fucking Cheltenham Roar. Those earplugs, they're just the devil if he's actually going to genuinely consider racing them.
Yeah,
so,
I'd be deaf and listen to you every fucking day. Yeah.
So that's the thing. That's what poor John Bon's going to feel like. He's going to hear me waffling in the corner. Look, I'll still stick with the same thing. When we talked about it before, Dice Like Dynamo was the value when he was a bigger price. Value's probably shrunk up now, given the fact that he hasn't gone left and it's only had a couple of races, not even proper races yet. Constitution Hill, for me, has got the best form in the book. Sir Gerhard, I just think will come up short in whichever race he goes in, even though the Ballymore is a little bit weaker. And like I said about John Bon, don't trust the earplugs. Anyone else trying to pick something as a bit of value at a price is just been stupid, to be honest with you. The winner should come from those first few in the betting, I reckon. George, tell me I'm wrong.
I'd probably agree with you that the winner's got to come from one of those three, but they're slightly more interesting one of the outsiders. I know Simon Rowlands did a piece last week or the week before about Kilcruit's last run being right back up to scratch on the times. So, I mean, he was up there as his best, well, probably arguably his best bump horse last year. If he is back to himself, then he's got to have a chance. I suppose you could sort of excuse one run for bumping into that one of the Bromheads, and then he looked like he lost his action the next time out behind Journey with Me a bit. So you could make a case there, but I'm not sure he's much of a price when you're taking half a chance on his well-being.
Yeah, that's it. And I think a few people would have taken the punt at the beginning of the season, wouldn't they, on Kilcruit anyway. So I'm sure most of the anti-post swats have probably already got him in their books, haven't they? Daryl, do you love John Bon yet?
No, but I'm not as against him as I was earlier in the season. I'm not a massive fan of these people saying, John Bon's form is now worked out. For me, those people are reading form wrong if that's the case. Like beating Good Risk at all by 6 lengths, who could barely jump a twig at the time that they met in a very slowly run race that he dictated, is not a good form boost when he's coming out and winning over now 2 miles 5 on soft ground, looking like a stayer, and he's learned to jump hurdles. So for me, that's not a form boost. His latest run at Haydock as well. I actually heard someone say, Nell's son, who finished 4th behind him, came out and won at Kelso, the grade 2 at Kelso, and they're using that as a form boost for him. Yet the second, Richmond Lake, was well beaten in the same race. So, you can't be too contradictive of the form. There, so I think you've got to play it straight down the line. I'm not, like I say, I'm not as against him as I was earlier in the season. He has achieved a little bit more. I did like that little bit of battle back he had at Haydock. A strongly run race probably will now suit him, whereas I was against him at a time when we didn't know anything about him at that point, and he was, 7-2 fav or whatever. I'm completely against Sir Gerhard. I don't think he's improved. I was saying to George before we come on air that I thought he clung on in the bumper under a really good ride by Rachel Blackmore. Kilcruit then reversed that form at Punchestown next time. He's come out and won a bit of a Mickey Mouse race at Leopardstown on Boxing Day for his hurdle debut, and then he's beat Free Stripe Life by 6 lengths at the Dublin Racing Festival. And we beat the same horse by 8 lengths in the Champion Bumper. I'm not entirely convinced that he's improved the whole ton for going over hurdles. He's a 7-year-old. I don't like 7-year-olds in either of the two novice races, the Ballymore or the Supreme. I'm a big Constitution Hill fan. I think he could be a bit of a monster. The time figures suggest he's a very, very good horse. Don't like people pigeonhole him because he's won on heavy ground, saying he needs soft ground. I don't think that's the case at all. I think visually he was very impressive on his debut at Sandown. He's had 2 starts. He's won a grade 1 in those 2 starts. His point-to-point form defeat by Any Harm and Asking has worked out well. That horse is a 140 rated horse. He could go to county. He's going to run this weekend. I think he's very, very good. The one I'd fear is Dice Like Dynamo.
Yes, and Jamie, for what it's worth, you still really keen on Constitution Hill because you were when we spoke earlier in the year.
Yeah, still Constitution Hill for me, Dave. It was the debut more than the second. The Talbot race impressed me more. He looked like Altior and Shishkin's the third coming, like, do you know what I mean? That after kick there towards last was what sold me. I totally against Dice Dynamo. Totally against him. He'll just go off too quick, Dave.
Yeah, he does he kills his races in the first to middle part, doesn't he? And then he does. Even last time out, he came home in a slow time because he'd done so much.
He won't get away with that. You know yourself, there. He won't get away with that at Cheltenham. Not a hope. Like, remember there that bad Supreme Somerville boy one? I know Gedabird jumped to his right, but like Ruby tried to go too quick to burn him off. So he was dead coming down to the second last. Do you know what I mean? My 7 George were there. Obviously, we saw Jerk Hurd and Flesh. I think he jumped well enough at the DRF, to be honest with you. And he got away with it because 3 Strike Flight is possibly not good enough. John Bond kind of impressed me in Haydock because he came there at the second last. Then he went again, win the race, and jumped the last and went away again. He impressed me. And I said that he was a late to start of the year. He impressed me that day at Haydock. I suppose I agree with George that Kilcrut is probably the each way bet now. And if he gets a fast best to aim at, like the way he won his bumper at Leopardstown before the champion bumper last year, like the faster they go, Kilcrut will be seen to good light. Mighty Potter, I was kind of into him for a little bit of money there a couple of weeks ago, but I was at a preview last week, obviously with Jack Kennedy there, and Jack Kennedy said he'd be doing his best work late. So that means possibly a stair, more than a stair than a 2 miler. So for me, it's Constitution Hill. I'll Kilcrut back, I'd say, last fucking September probably for it. So look, that bet is still alive. So look, it's still Constitution Hill for me.
Yeah, fair enough. See, I do get it because obviously I've not been betting anti-post, so I don't know what to do with the Dice Dynamo dilemma because he is, I think, probably a bit short given the fact that we don't know enough. And it's just his engine and everything. Like, I feel like I still want to get in on him. So
I think he'll go a favourite, Dave, just for what it's worth. I think he'll go a favourite. I can see Constitution Hill drifting out to about 4 or 5 to 1 on the day.
If Willie doesn't send Segard and he only runs Dice Dynamo, that vote of confidence, I reckon, is going to really
push him.
I think John Bond said Dice Dynamo will start favourite. John Bond will be second favourite, and Constitution Hill drift to third favourite.
And then that's when Constitution Hill becomes a bit of a bet as well, doesn't it? So there's still time for it to move. I know everyone's talking about these same horses and the Supreme, but they are the ones to talk about. We don't have to get particularly stuck in the first race of the festival. So if we had an imaginary pot of cash for the whole festival, would this be a race where you'd be confident in having a bet in, all 3 of you? George first.
No.
Daryl?
Yeah.
Jamie?
No.
All right, so Daryl's the professional punter and Daryl's going to have a bet in it. So let's all have a bet in it. Right, should we move on to the Arkle, or has anyone got any final words for the Supreme? Literally nothing, it's mute. Right, Arkle time. So, first off for the Arkle, I think I know one of us does, but who here likes Edwardstone?
Who likes, did you say?
I said, who likes Edwardstone?
Yeah, not too bad as well. He's grand.
So not for a normal Arkle, but probably for this year's. I could have him.
All right, Daryl, what's your view on him?
Very much the same. It's lukewarm, isn't it? I think everybody is slightly disappointed that he's favourite. I think everybody knows he's probably good enough to win this, but doesn't really want to back him at 9 to 4. I think everybody's searched high and low down the Irish, even at the big priced outsiders, trying to find something that could just pop up. And I don't really think anyone's come up with anything solid. So therefore, I think you're automatically coming back to Edwardstone. But then again, you don't really want to back him at 9 to 4. It's a very difficult race to work out.
Yeah, I think so. And I was talking to George before, and I've had a few quid on Blue Lord to be backing on the exchanges just because you could get 5 to 1, you get 11 to 2 about him. And for me, given the fact that he is unbeaten, he's got the more likely profile. I know he fed in the Supreme, but he's got that Supreme form going into it. First season as a novice, and he won the key trial. I know where people will say Riviera Tell could have got in front, but she wouldn't have done. If she wanted to, she would have done. I don't buy into that. And he's like a 5 to 2, 11 to 2 poke. I know it's different with the actual bookies exchanges, but people are starting to talk about him now and saying that he's the one to back at 7 to 2, 3 to 1, which then starts to throw me off a little bit. Like if everyone starts to now like him just because it's a price thing, rather than before when people were looking at form, they couldn't have him. I just looked at a few things. We know it is a substandard Arkle anyway, but when we talk about statty things, and I know they can change every single year, like 5-year-olds don't do it. Fakir Doudrige was the closest to come into it, put the kettle on, did him, didn't she? And that was obviously a mare going to do it. And I know we've got Riviere de Tel that is the 5-year-old and it's the mare. So I think the allowance people's just getting like they're not considering it as much because she still gets the mare's allowance. But it's still, for me, like it's not the be all and end all stats. But I do think it is prominent enough in this race that Blue Lord should be the standout horse in there. Alan King, I know he's had a couple of winners in this race as well, but he's had a few losers of the race too. And I just don't think that Edwardstone, like he should no way be as short as he is, even though he's done what he's done. Because I don't really think he's done enough to warrant. He's got the last 3 Racing Post ratings. He's got 164, 164, 164. And I know the way they've been worked out are different, but like Moscow Fly, when he won it as an 8-year-old, hadn't even achieved 164 Racing Post rating just because of the types of horses he's been running against. His Cheltenham best Racing Post rating is 149. And we know the likes of like Duvans, Valtours, Shishkins, Altiors, they're obviously coming in with bigger numbers. Tidal Bay was second in a Ballymore and got given 149 back then, whereas he got given 149 for coming third in a county hurdle, fifth, beating 3 lengths in a county hurdle. So that's where I'm saying again, those Racing Post rating figures.
Yeah, but Dave, his rate, he has achieved the rating of 159 though. Like he has, like he's beaten Brave Siaska's rated 145, 146 now is rock solid. Like, but Brave Siaska, Venetia, I mean, even though Venetia's horses have all got a cold apparently, haven't they? She said that she'd rather go here than the Grand Annual because she wants to take on Edwardstone. She thinks she can get closer to him. So she was losing £5 then, got beaten 5 lengths. But Venetia also sent Fernando Civola to go and win the Game Spirit, which is worth less than the Grand Annual. She could have had a horse with about £12 well in, Dave.
Yeah,
she's not a plotty trainer, mate. She's not looking at
George. We'd make our own show there, by the way.
She's not a plotty trainer though, is she, James? Venetia Williams. At what point has she ever plotted a horse for any one of these races?
No, I agree with you there. But I agree with you there. But I know what you're saying, Darren, as well. Like you really, in fairness, now you did. You fancied Funa Ben Savola to win the Grand Annual. I didn't understand why that started replacing was for the Gain Spirit when the fucking Gain Spirit is worth fuck all now. Do you know what I mean? For a prestigious race before. That was a great trial for Cheltenham years ago. And she ran and ruined his handicap mark. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, he was booted home that day in Doncaster by Charlie Dutch, and there was no need for it, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. So, and Edwardstone's absolutely trounced him. So he's definitely, you cannot question Edwardstone's 159.
Well,
you can't.
If you fancy Edwardstone, you must think, like, if you fancy him big time, you must think Brave Shaska is a good thing for the Grand Annual then, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And I bet a lot of people are pissed off he's going in this race.
Yeah.
But see, I don't think that run was one, like, you know, he sends 159, he's deserved that mark. So that race to be fair, that Kingmaker, we talked about it beforehand. It was a quick turnaround for Third Time Lucky, but we sort of half fancied Third Time Lucky to do him, didn't we? And he didn't. But Third Time Lucky did suffer an overreach before that. And I know that they've obviously run him and they said that he was fine in between. But if you get an overreach, like you've literally, your back.
He never had an overreach. That's a load of rubbish.
Exactly, because he must have been cut and then he shouldn't have been racing. So if he has raced him, he wasn't sound. Brave Siaska was getting £5 and was beaten 5 lengths. So I don't think that means you reckon that Brave Siaska is like a 150 rated animal, or ran to 150 on that.
What's his mark? 146, is it? Yeah. No, Gerald, 146. So if you think he's a Grand Annual horse, he must have £8 in hand to make him a 154. So it'd be £5 shorter. Yeah.
But all I'm saying is he didn't run to that number that day, did he? So I don't think Edwardstone has done enough to be up there to be the 159 thing. Anyways, it's around, but he isn't 159. The thing is, the only thing that would prove that he is, because it's a substandard Arkle. If you think he's 159, he should win the Arkle, shouldn't he?
Yeah, he should do. Yeah,
I'm
just not. All I'm saying is he's just not one of my. He's not the typical type of Arkle horse that I would like to go and absolutely steam into. And I think it's the same for everybody else. I'm not questioning the fact that he should be favourite. He should absolutely be favourite. He's definitely earned a rate of 159. But there's three 5-year-olds in here with Irish form, which we don't know how it matches up to the English form yet. I know they've got a terrible record, but they're open to further improvement. They're very lightly raced. It's a very dangerous market to be taken 9-4 about an Arkle favourite who's an 8-year-old, a second season novice, even though I know he's reached the mark of 159, because this lot ain't far off.
Exactly. I think so. And this is where I'm getting in it. Like, I think Blue Lord should be favourite for the race, and for that reason, I've been sticking some quid on Blue Lord. So Blue Lord's one of my strongest.
Hang on. Before we move on, sorry, I know we're going to move on quickly, right? And I won't do this all night. But how on earth could you have Blue Lord a shorter price than Riviere de Tel after the run last time, when Riviere de Tel did along with Saint Sam up front, went far too hard up front, Blue Lord had the race run perfectly to suit him. He went to pick her up, and he could only cling on at the finish after she made that almost race-ending mistake at the last. How and what bloody bookie would have Blue Lord shorter than Riviere to Tell?
He beat her, and he was getting like we're losing £2 for there, so he's on revised weights. He's better. She's been like massively raced this season, isn't she? Willie Mullins would not have had him completely and utterly tuned up.
That's not the point. But you, as a bookie, you wouldn't have Blue Lord shorter than Riviere to Tell on the bare form of everything that's happened. You wouldn't.
I think you would, because he beat her last time. She's never beat him, and she's going to be worse off in the weights. He's got better Cheltenham form.
Let's move on. This is crap.
Right. Eddie, quickly before you get on, Darryl completely agree with you on that. Like Riviere to Tell, and Blue Lord doesn't look like he's a very strong finisher, so you've got to have concerns about him getting up the hill a little bit. St. Sam's the one at 8-1 out of those three that I think I'd probably have out of them. Like went too hard, like you said, probably on the worst of the ground down the inside, jumped like a bit of a pig as well when he can jump a lot better than that. If they can get his jumping sorted and he gets a nice lead from Magic Days, which he's going to, he's probably the one out of those three that I'd have. But Edwardstone's better than all of them potentially, so it's a bit of a tricky one, like you say.
Agree.
I suppose I was down at the line when Blue Lord come up the straight with Riviere to Tell, and he was crawling home, and she wasn't that much better. Do you know what I mean? She was crawling. I know they're £2 better off. She will always, to me, she's probably cast iron to finish second. There's always going to be a better horse to beat her. That's just my opinion. Blue Lord Edwardstone, I have a theory about Edwardstone, right? If St. Sam goes as quick as he did in the DRF, that will suit Edwardstone perfectly. Because Edwardstone is used to running in fast-paced handicap hurdles, and he jumps like a good thing. Like if you look at the same when they did the video of Kempton, of how quick he was compared to Shishkin, you have to fancy him. Out of the Willie Mullins horses, you might think I'm absolutely off my game, but I actually fancy a horse that actually fell at Dublin Race Festival, and that's called Hot on Calor. I've backed him a lot each way the last couple of weeks. For the fact of the matter, he beat Gentleman to Me by 14 lengths to come out and trounce his rivals in the last two races in Thurles and Navan. And he beat Mount Leinster, who won yesterday at Leopardstown. And he absolutely destroyed him that day, and he jumped well that day. Now, a little bit to the left, but I think out of all the Williams Mullins horses, his value's gone now. He's about 7-8-1. But I give him a squeak each way. Autumn Colour.
I know you said he fell last time, Jamie. There was, I think it was Barry Geraghty on one of the off the fence things earlier was saying that when they went schooling at Navan again at the weekend, his jumping was awful. But you've got to try and pick and choose who annoys a bit.
You know what I did notice with him is that every time he approached the fences, he puts in an extra stride. So he starts a little bit. He's not that natural Arkle horse who you can't look. Edwardstone, for example, meets every fence on a stride. You know, so.
But no, I suppose St. Sam as well. I suppose the only thing I have about St. Sam, I'm talking through my pocket last year, I bought seating him in the Fred Winter. I didn't like his finishing kick at the end. Like, so if he goes too fast, he's no finishing kick either. So.
What are we even talking about? Are we literally talking about a handicap chase at Cheltenham, or are we talking about fucking Arkle? I know it's a substandard Arkle, but please stop making
it's a grade 2 limited. It's a grade 2 limited handicap.
Yeah, but this is what was winding me up with it a bit. It's just people are starting to look for things further down the market. The winner would come from Edwardstone or Blue Lord. I can't have Edwardstone, so I'm in Blue Lord. If it's something else, then
I'd be it. Move on.
They've swerved somewhere else. But there's no point looking for other stuff. This is the thing. This will happen in loads of these previews. Everyone's starting to talk about something a bit of a price. Magic Days at 16s. And then Cool Sublime's going in there. If Henry thought Magic Days was good enough, he wouldn't be sending Cool Sublime in there. Blue Lord will win the Arkle.
Decision. That's the Odin's decision.
Oh, well, good for them. Still don't mean they're going to win. Blue Lord wins the Arkle. It's as simple as that. What have we got for a final decision from you, Darryl?
Edwardstone.
Oh, you didn't want to say that, did you?
Wow, it's that kind of race, though, isn't it? Tentatively.
Yeah, definitely. And you did pick up on Horton Coolier's jumping before the Dublin Race Festival. We talked about it beforehand, didn't we? Anywho, that's a little bit of off my chest. Ultima, handicap chase. Anyone got strong fans in here? George, you want to go last on this?
Yeah. I'll go last.
Oh, that means George has got something bad to say about the race. I won't deliberate on this one for too much longer. I think the Cratch Rambler, if he runs, will win the Ultima. Simple as that. Jamie, you got anything you like?
Oh God, I can't believe I'm agreeing with you. I like Corach Rambler, and if one horse runs in this, is your old horse that was third last year in the Martin Pipe. If he runs, but it's probably going to be safe for the Grand National, if he runs, Fleur will win. I don't care what anyone says, Fleur will win that race. I suppose the only one of the Irish, actually I can't believe I'm talking about Irish, there's such a crap record in the race. Schoolboy Hours wasn't touched for his handicap win in the Petty Par.
Kim Muir, innit?
Yeah.
Is he going to Kimure?
We think so.
No, a lot of people said we're at it, previews that friends of mine up the country who know Sean Flanagan, and Sean Flanagan wants to ride him in the Ultima. Because Derek O'Connor has me booked for nothing in the Kimure yet. That's what I was told. Might be totally wrong.
Interesting.
So, Schoolboy Hours for me, and Fleur, the Irish side. I suppose the English horse I do fancy is Cork Rambler. But if you name me to Matt, if either Fleur or Schoolboy Hours run here, I'd be totally interested in either of each way.
Fair enough. You got something you've managed to dig into and find for us?
Not really. I was really quite keen on Fantasticus, but I've heard him mentioned so many times at previous days, but it's really put me off him. If everybody else fancies it, it can't possibly win, surely. I think Comontelli's going to go to the Kim Muir. I thought Zanza was a massive prize at 50-1, but I think he's skipping and going to Aintree for the 2-6 or something, whatever there. Clouded Glen's interesting. I'm going to need to see the final field, Dave, in all honesty.
Yeah, fair enough. Just before we go on to you, George, Fullback's a horse that I quite like. I remember last year when he ran in a novice chase, I said they should stick him in a handicap chase. They didn't, and then he blew his mark a little bit. Then he finally did win at Cheltenham. Now, when Gary Moore sent him, I backed him that day. I think he was 12s or 14s. He opened up. I missed a bit of that price. Went off at 92. He ran pretty poor, I think. That wasn't amazing. There was some trouble happening in the race as well. But you know, every now and again when you see a horse from a yard like Gary Moore's, where the jockey is literally like, this Wednesday, we've told everyone it's going to win. Got to win. It was a pretty decent effort, but I think a lot of people are reading a bit too much into that because it was a good effort, but I don't think it
really bad race though, wasn't it? Really bad race.
Exactly, bad race, and I don't think it justifies him to say that he's now well in because it's a £5 higher mark. This is at least half a stone harder race. So just my 2 pen off from fullback, which means he'll probably go well. So George, do I need to poke you anymore to wind you up? We're ready to go. Let it out. We're all with friends here.
So, Glenn.
No. I'm just going to have a general whinge for a minute and then I'll tell you what I fancy. So obviously, British Handicap has got a bit of a bee in his bonnet and an agenda going on with raising the Irish horses a bit more than he has done. Like Kevin Blake's got an article with all the average ratings, and the British ones are getting dropped. The British ones are getting dropped a bit more. So the average differential for the chasers is £4. But obviously, if he's had this plan, why not do it all year? It seems like they've just suddenly thought of it when the weights came out last week. Like Jamie mentioned, Schoolboy Hours, who's on the same Irish mark. You've got Death Duty as one that's £1 lower. There's another few in there that are on the same Irish marks or sort of £1 either way. And Gordon Elliott's entered a few throughout the year that have got quite generous looking marks. And it's almost like he's just suddenly thought, oh shit, we need to do this. And it's like, if you're going to do it properly, or just don't get up at the end of it because you want the British to do a bit better at the festival. I just thought it was ridiculous when you look at, like you say, Death Duty is £1 lower, Schoolboy Hours is the same, and then the rest of them getting £4, £5, £6, £7. Just it's a bit mental, to be honest. But anyway, so for that reason, for the Irish chasers, I'm looking at those ones that were entered a bit earlier on. That race Death Duty one last time I thought was pretty weak, the Irish Grand National Trial, so I couldn't really be interested in him. And Gordon Elliott's been saying he's the best handicapped horse, and like,
he hasn't.
I know, and I agree with you here, Darryl. He is, because he's £1 lower than he is in Ireland, but he's not actually the best handicapped horse.
Yeah, and they asked him on the spot, George. They asked him, like, stood in front of the handicapper immediately after the weights come out, and they was like, "Who do you think's your best handicapped horse?" And he went, "Well, Death Duty's the only one that's been dropped." That's all he said. Then all of a sudden, every bloody news outlet went, "Oh, this is the best handicapped horse running by Gordon Elliott."
It was almost a factual statement than anything else, wasn't it?
He's absolutely no fucking chance in the Ultima. He couldn't win he couldn't win a Carl Cup and he was punted off the fucking board that time. He's absolutely no chance. Mind that Egypt.
Anyway, there's 3 Cork Ramblers here, I think. I think if this horse was a bit more straightforward, he'd be £10 higher than his mark quite easily. That last time he won at Cheltenham, I mean, he should have absolutely pissed her, but he doesn't do anything in front, hangs around. The big concern you've got with him is he's going to be held up a bit further back than is ideal for this race, and he won on the other course, so this one being a bit tight is not great. But I just think he's got so much more ability purely because he's not straightforward. I mean, that Reynoldstown, he's gone off, what did he go off in the end? 3-1 favourite versus Does He Know? He's got £9 swing, I think, this time. and he's twice the price when he's gone off short on him there, and he didn't have a hard race because he unseated. So his run style is the only thing that slightly puts me off, but other than that, can't get away from him really.
Yeah, nice. Okay, so that's the Ultima done. Should we move on to the champion hurdle just so we can quickly get this one swept under the carpet? I'm just going to go straight in with the champion hurdle. That couple of previews, people are slating Tiapu because he's got no grade 1 form. He is only a baby, bless him. And we talked about this. I talked about it. I talk a lot about Espoir de Lan when he didn't make it over for the Triumph the year that he would have won because he had an injury. And then obviously he comes over for the champion hurdle, dots up at a big price in a decent looking champion hurdle, to be fair, much better and much more competitive champion hurdle than this year's renewal looks. And he'd picked up some grade 3s along the way. Now that's what you should be doing with these 5-year-olds when they go into open company. You don't have to stick them in grade 1s. That's the reason they have these lowly grade 3s and grade 2s out there. And he's been winning them nicely, hasn't he? So like as much as he's got a lot to find still to go and beat Honeysuckle, you could argue Espoir de Lan still had a lot to find and then managed to dot up when it came to Cheltenham. Again, Espoir de Lan didn't have the Cheltenham experience, neither does Tiapu, but he wasn't a horse that I particularly warmed to as a juvenile. But I do think now, looking at him, I think he's pretty solid. All the ones in behind that, like when you're trying to think of maybe like thin up the places or an each way bet to take it on, we all know that Appreciate It potentially could, after that Supreme last year, could have stepped up as a champion hurdle horse. And I know Willie Mullins is the best man to get a horse ready, but he hasn't had a run. He's had an injury at some point. He's had a setback. So I just think he's like grossly underpriced for a horse that in reality is a 7-2 both against Honeysuckle, who apparently is unbeatable, just off the back of that, in theory, that one Supreme run, because plenty of people wanted to take him on for that Supreme before he did it. Tiapu's 8-1. Epitant in behind, she's just not good enough anymore. Adagio, Zaniher I quite like, but he just jumps really weird, didn't he? I just don't think there's anything else in behind. I think Tiapu would be the one I'd be looking at maybe for like placey bets. I think he might be an okay price of the day. The shorter and shorter Honeysuckle gets as well, because they're talking about it going off the shortest price. I think Isterbrack was 8-15, wasn't he? And like, there's no logical reason why I should really want to take her on, other than the fact that if she starts getting really short, I might be semi-tempted to just have a little lay on her. Although I've just slated most of the competition in behind, but I think Appreciate It potentially could step up and be close to her, and I think Tiapu could potentially step up on there. So it's not like it's just one horse flash in the pan, but it would be a small stakes interest in the race, I think. But I don't know. I'll probably have to just sit back and watch it. George, you look like you're going to swing at me.
You just said every reason why nothing's going to beat Honeysuckle, and then you're going to lay her. Like, what's just either enjoy watching her romp home again, or have a sticker in a multiple or something and move on.
It just depends how short she is, because she's currently 4-5 on the exchanges, yet she's 1-2 with the bookies. So that's where when people like there, you're saying stick her in a multiple, can't stick her in a multiple at 1-2 when she's 4-5 is the actual price. So if she started to get herself down to actual on the exchanges as a 2s on poke, I just don't think anything should be a 2s on poke in the champion hurdle at Cheltenham. Got to jump. I know she does jump and stuff, but I just think there's too many things that could happen. But I know what you're saying. Daryl?
This is quite possibly a worse champion hurdle than the one Epitant won outside of like the top 3 in the market, isn't it? That's terrible. There's nothing in behind. There is nothing in behind at all. Like, people are talking up Zanny. I'm thinking, what on earth? Like, cheek pieces on him. Christ. Like, 5-year-olds getting cheek pieces in the champion hurdle for the first time. Like, it's madness. I'm quite sweet on the chance to Appreciate It. I think he's the one to put it up to her. I know everybody's saying, he missed the Irish champion hurdle. He comes here without a run, but like, he was fitting well to go to the Irish champion hurdle. They decided not to. They think they was going to go to Gorham Park. They decided not to. Like, Willie has said, I've decided that we're not going to these races and I want to go there fresh. Like, for me, that's not a negative. Like, Willie Mullins has brought horses to this festival time and time again fresh. I would not be concerned about no run at all about him. I thought he was really impressive, albeit in a terrible Supreme Novice Hurdle field last year. But you stop the race at the top of the hill at the 5th hurdle and compare it to Honeysuckle's champion hurdle run on the same day over the same course and distance. You stop it at the top of the hill, and he is 8 lengths or 10 lengths faster than Honeysuckle. And then the overall circuit time from the landing side of the first hurdle to the finish line, Honeysuckle was 7 lengths faster than Appreciate It. So you do the maths and add that up there. There's not that much between them, in my opinion. I think there's more to come from Appreciate It. The other thing is as well, I see on the road to Cheltenham a show that I love, but I just sometimes I think it's too, it's too plain sighted at times, especially when comparing the Supreme and the Champion Hurdle. For example, Honeysuckle was much faster from 3 out to the line than Appreciate It. But Honeysuckle had to get racing, jumping the third last, swinging around the bend. She had to get racing to free roll the way home. Whereas Paul Townend had got to sit there on Appreciate It because nothing was good enough to take him down into the home straight, and nothing was good enough to give him a race. So, that's not him having a gun put to his head either. So I don't think he's got too much to find. I'm not worried about the run at all. I think 7-2 is a very fair price to take on a mare that I don't think was at her best at Leopardstown. Well, the figures will tell you that she wasn't at her best at Leopardstown. So I think he's the one that could put it up to. I'm not saying he's definitely going to beat her because she's a great horse, but he's the one I want to back, essentially.
Yeah, fair enough. I will just say that before we move on to anybody else in this one, for the fact that Willie Mullins, I know, I like to say for the fact that you can ignore trends if they're Willie Mullins horses, and I know that he's got horses ready for festivals, but just to play a little bit devil's advocate for it, Appreciate It was a 7-year-old in the Supreme because he's had issues before. The other horses that he's been sending to the festival have had tons and tons and tons of racing beforehand. So I do wonder more with this. Like, Willie does know better than I do, but I do wonder whether there's a part of him that doesn't want to race him because he doesn't want it to be not necessarily the last run, but he doesn't think he's going to be able to keep backing it up. And if he'd have run him at the Irish Champion Hurdle or any of those races, and it wasn't even him trying 100%, whether he better see it out. So that's my one slight doubt with it. As much as I trust what Willie says, and he's being very bullish about him, I do wonder whether he is genuinely concerned whether he's going to be able to take the race, which is why he's not racing him beforehand, because he'd rather find out in the Champion Hurdle than before. He just doesn't have that many races, Appreciate, has he? One other thing as well before I move off, you'll talk about the performances. When you look at the last 5 Racing Post ratings, I know there's someone else's figures, but just to put it in there, where you're saying Honeysuckle hasn't necessarily been at her best despite the winning margins. Her last 5 runs, so last to most recent, was 170, 173, 172, 167, 166. Obviously, I've included with those figures the mare's allowance. I've shoved £7 onto all of those. Then when you look at Appreciate It, we'll do his last 4 because he only had the 4 hurdle spins. 140, 156, 156, and then 165 in that Supreme. So he's £1 off of her according to Race Post ratings. And then Tiapu is 138, 138, then 149, 154, 165. So Appreciate It, Honeysuckle and Tiapu on their last performances Racing Post ratings, there's only £1 between them. And I know that's one run, it's an isolation, it's using someone else's figures, but I just don't think she's as invincible as everyone's trying to make out she is.
Agree.
Oh, yes. Jamie, we've let you sit there and stew listening to my splendour.
Jesus Christ, all fucking mighty. I thought he were going to break into song there for a minute about the Racing Post racing. Fucking hell. All right, Merlin. But anyway, I echo what Darryl says, to be honest with you. I totally agree with him. Totally agree with him. That I agree with the road to Cheltenham. I agree with what you're saying there. They're done it to death about putting the freeze frame together with the two of them coming up the straight. From 3 to the finish line, obviously, from 2 out, obviously, Honeysuckle goes and wins the race. I'd like to see what happens when the Appreciate is right there at the bend with her. Will she go past him then? And Appreciate still hasn't gone, if Paul Townend hasn't gone for everything. Do you know what I mean? I totally agree that, like, he did it with Q Vega. I wouldn't be worried about a run. Doesn't bother me in the slightest. Tiapu, to me, looks a stare. Now, has a turn of foot. If you put the gun to my head and he stays over hurdles next year, I think Tiapu will be in the stairs hurdle the following year. That's just my opinion. But he does have a turn of foot. And I think a fast run 3-miler in the end in a stairs hurdle, he's my idea of next year's stairs hurdle for some reason. And the way he looks, because if you look at the top of the corner bend at Gorham Park, Robbie Power was shaking the reins. He was shaking the reins. I thought, and I had a good bet in him that day, and he was a stupid price. I thought he'd be odds on. To me, I think he might be caught if they go fast. But where's the pace in the Champion Hurdle? Is Appreciate is going to go out in front? Do you know what I mean? Catch me if you can. Is Honeysuckle going to go past? So for me, I echo Darrell. I'm going to back Appreciate on the day. Yeah?
Fair enough. Right. I've just looked down at the clock. I should have put a timer on, shouldn't I? I think we've been going 40 minutes and we've only gone through 4 races. So we'll try.
You've
and
done most of the talking.
Yeah, yeah. And you see him as well, Darren. He caps it off. Then he cut off all the Cheltenham Exchange boys. They could, yeah. He said, "Fuck all," didn't it?
Yeah, he's not even given George a say in this champion hurdle either.
Yeah.
No, we're going to get to it. But
it's all right, move on.
I will just say, because we've done that.
Jesus Christ. Short and fucking tie, he becomes Mr. fucking Young.
No,
That's why he's dressed as a headmaster.
Yeah. Where's his fucking blackboard?
Because George wants to go to bed, and I know George has got some strong opinions on races later in the week.
You come on, Waverley.
Point is, I'm not going to be like this for the whole 4 days, George. So don't worry. Mostly Tuesday, and then I've got a tiny bit on Wednesday.
You definitely have to cut it off after National Hunt Chase. We'll be here for another 2 hours before you get onto the Ballymore.
Oh, wait till we get onto the fucking Boodles. That's my big one.
Oh God!
Right, Mares Hurdle. I know what all of you lot like. All I'm going to say is on this, I think the race is possibly a bit more open than people are trying to give it credit for. Because again, the only one I ever hear being tipped up by anybody is Tell Me Something Girl. I do think, I know everyone was talking about Echoes and Rain being the county horse, and she's only up a pound from her Irish mark, things like that. But and I know it doesn't quite work at this in handicaps, but she's not going to get a £7 allowance in that issue. I think that Echoes and Rain will run in the Mares Hurdle, and I think that they could tactically try and change things. Because she's so keen, they might just say, do you know what? Bollocks, just go off with her. We've ruined her this season thinking she was a champion hurdle horse. And she is, I think, officially one of the highest rated mares in the race. She's 8-1 with normal bookies. Obviously, tomorrow, today, when you watch this, when it's out, we'll see the horses that have still been left in. We've got the confirmations supplementary stage tomorrow. I'd be very interested if she came in this race. I think she'd be like she'd run a massive race potentially. She's 20-1 on the exchanges or 25. So I just maybe keep an eye on her, because I know she hasn't done it and it would be an afterthought, but it looks a pretty shit Mares Hurdle. But anyway, that's my little 2 penneth on it. George, you need to say something. We've got to keep you awake.
Am I allowed now?
Sorry.
I'd probably agree with you that Echoes and Rain's probably the best horse here, but I'm not sure she's going to be the best horse over this trip with how she goes. And it's one of those where the market probably is going to end up with the higher rated horses towards the top, like with Tell Me Something Girl up there. And there's one bit further down, I think the rating is absolutely criminal, and I'm sort of hoping she'd go for the Coral Cup instead, but that's Marie's Rock. So she's she was touted as a champion hurdle horse and then went a bit wrong a couple of seasons ago. And Nick Henson seems to have got her back a bit. She started off season in the Great Wood, which is probably the hottest sort of piece of hurdle form going this year. Then she's stepped up in trip, got horrendously hampered in the Lanzarote. Bolted up at Kenton, absolutely spread eagled, a half decent field there without really coming off the bridle, and then got horrendously hampered in the Lanzarote. She's gone to Warwick, and it's hard to know what to make of that form with Indefatigable a long way back and Guest Tonic up there, and she had an awful rating. But she's just one of those that if it is a strong pace here, as long as Nico Boinville's not on, because I'm not a big fan of him for horses that need settling, if she can get settled out the back, I can see her coming through strongly, and I think she'll be far too big a price, just purely based on the numbers of what her rating is.
Yeah, fair enough. And you've mentioned Indefatigable there. I haven't said it, but she's one that I do quite like her price. She ran okay in the race last year when it was soft ground. If it does start to dry up a bit, I think she'd be better on it. And that I don't think that was her true running by Marie's Rock, but she was losing £6 that day. She's like a 33-1 play, which I think's a bit balmy. But there are probably 7 or 8 you can make a case for, apart from Queensbrook. Anyone like Queensbrook?
I do a bit, yeah.
Oh, go on then. Sell Queensbrook to me, because I just don't get it.
I suppose the price has gone now, Dave. Like, Time to Backer was a race before Burning Victory gave Burning Victory a couple of pounds that day. I backed Burning Victory a long time ago, 33-1, but I wasn't impressed with his finishing it for the last day in the QV. I think Queensbrook was gaining her all the way in the line. I suppose this all depends on the pace of the race, because heaven help us, we'll have the cheek pieces back on, and they'll be next to Stormy Ireland. And to be honest, they're going to cut each other's throats. That's just my opinion, right? So if you watch the race back last year, the wise man's horse for the Arkle, now that everyone's tipping in fucking preview night, Magic Days, was the Mare's Novice and went off like the clappers. That's why even if it's soft ground first day and Roy Cahala runs here, Roy Cahala won't have has no chance for me. For the fact of the matter, if they go too fast, you won't be able to keep up, even on soft ground. Do you know what I mean? So to me, it'll be set up for Tell Me Something Girl. And I think Tell Me Something Girl will win. I really do. The faster they go, the better her chance. On the other way, Echoes and Rain, best horse in the race. Echoes and Rain, there's absolutely no chance. Sorry, lads, in a mare's hurdle. Won't get up the hill and does not stay. Should be in the county hurdle.
Yeah, probably. Oh, it's still not being sold, but even Tell Me Something Girl's not being sold to me. Daryl, you're keen on Tell Me Something Girl, though, aren't you? You think she's been plotted for it?
Yeah, she's been plotted for it. He's been very open, saying that he's working back from this race. I think everything she's done in all of her performances suggests that she's building up to a bigger performance. She was emphatic in this race last year. The pace is in the race. I don't think a lot of these are that great. I think she's got loads more to come. I think she's a real improving spring horse who's yet to show her best. And I thought she was miles the best horse at Christmas or over the Christmas period when behind Royal Kahala, giving away weight. Thought she did remarkably well in that race to finish where she did. Loves Cheltenham. The way she scooted up that hill last year. There weren't many horses that came up the hill like that. She's very talented and she's still very much on the upgrade. I do totally agree with George about Marie's Rock as well. I've been on this horse for a while. They quite fancy her, I think, for this, and her rating is criminal of 140. She's got a potent turn of foot, and for a horse to have that sort of turn of foot at this distance is very rare. They're normally just strong gallopers at 2.5 miles, normally stayers that a lot of them should be running over 3 miles. So she could just be the speedier horse in the field. I don't think Echoes and Rain will go for this. Don't think Royal Kahala will go for this. Queensbrook, I did give a good mention to a while back, but I don't know. I just think it's too much hard work with her. It doesn't look natural. She could be one that ends up in a 3 mile race. She could at some point in her career. So I wouldn't like her. But yeah, Marie's Rock and Tell Me Something Girl for me.
Would she get up the hill there?
Who? Marie's Rock?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course she will. Do you know what? She was a big eye catcher in the Greatwood. Travelled really, really strongly. Found trouble in running. Came wide. And
slowly working. It's definitely the best handicap race by a country mile, I'd say, in fucking 10 years. The amount of winners that have come out of it, like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
unbelievable. Like. Unbelievable.
Yeah, she's got a big chance. I thought she was going for Coral Cup, but
seriously think she's better right-handed on a flat track. That's just my opinion. That's the way she won at Kempton that day was unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like, but look, I'll save my judgment till a day, but I think if they, as I said, I'll repeat myself again, they'll go so fast. It will suit her. I will say that. Yeah.
Any more, George? You look like you want to say something?
No.
You wanted to say hurry up and get this over and done with, didn't you? To be fair, though, as much as like the Mayor's Hurdle, when everyone slates the Mayor's programme and adding all these races and stuff in there, as far as renewals go, I know you get the big clashes, but this actually looks like a fairly tasty one, doesn't it? Because
move on.
Right, National Hunt Chase. Oh no, it's Boodles next. It's Boodles, isn't it? Sorry, it's Betfair. Betfair have got the order the other way around, so it gets me a little bit excited. Right. I'll go last on this one. Daryl, you were talking about this while I was having a wee earlier. You guys, George and Daryl came in with me. They saw me wash my hands. They saw me shake.
Thanks for the fucking visual.
What you were going to say? Thanks for the fucking invite. Right, Daryl, go.
Yeah, this is a very difficult race because of Gaelic Warrior. They were obviously hoping the handicapper would honour his duties by giving this horse a mark of 139. But they've changed the way they handicap French horses now, and they were worried he was going to get a higher mark, but they actually turned out of a £10 lower mark of a mark of 129. His French form does actually really stand up. I was going through and it spent hours and hours going through it. Yeah. There's bits and pieces of grade 1 French form in there, grade 2.
Like you did with Hugh Briscoe, is it? Like you did with Hugh Briscoe, is it?
Oh, he'll come to it.
Exactly.
It also,
be quiet,
but it also relates to the likes of Porticello as well.
Yeah.
So there is bits and pieces in there. I mean, everyone's saying, well, you can't back this Gaelic Warrior unless you're in the yard, and and it's probably fair. They're not the type of horses I like to back. He's never going to be in a race like this, a 20-runner handicap round Cheltenham, hustle and bustle of it. It's going to be a completely different experience for him. But what I would say is, how many runners has William Mullins had at the Cheltenham Festival that's been rated under 130 or even under 135? It can't be many at all, can it? And they seem quite bullish, quite excited about his chances. Apparently, he works well with Vauban. So, I mean, it's all here saying you can only sort of work with what you've got. I came down on the Tide Turns. I put him up a couple of weeks ago. I think he's a very, very well handicapped horse of a mark of 137. He was a huge eye catcher in his qualifying run behind T. Hoopu at Gorham Park in the Red Mills. The jockey went to pull, Dennis Regan went to pull the whip through and see T. Hoopu going up the inside and decided just to put it back in his pocket, basically. But he caught the eye, was travelling well. And for a 4-year-old to travel like that for a fairly run race at Gorham Park on ground that probably wasn't ideal for him. Just marked him down as a smart horse. He's got the spring juvenile form. He was shortened up for room behind Vauban. He would never have won. He would never have beat that horse. But the form's already been franked by Iker Allen. I think he's a nice horse, improving horse. Won on debut at Punchestown, beating HMSC horse. I think he's at least got £8 in hand, probably. Probably he's probably a 145 horse at least, I'd say, and he's open to improvement. The form's strong. There's not a lot not to like about him. In a normal year, without this Gaelic Warrior in here, I'd be pretty bullish on his chances, in all honesty. But you can only be as bullish as you can be with Gaelic Warrior in here.
Nice, Jamie.
I suppose Dave, can I see the Tide Turns if the bullish and the reports are right? Give Gaelic Warrior £8? Probably not. Tide Turns, I suppose, just for their HMSC horse. HMSC horse was third behind Vauban and Pied Piper. It's all tied in. Do you know what I mean? The one I like, sneaky each way, and he was in the race with Brazil, and Davy Russell was on him, and he never tried an absolute yard. And we're up at the bar in the owners and trainers, myself and Georgie boy. And George goes, "Who the fuck was that plague talking to you for a while? He burnt the ear off me." And he said, "I know the owner of Ebasari." I go, "All right, good for you." They got off the last day and they said, "Jack, well done for pulling him," basically. So he would be sneaky one each way. He used to be trained by Mick Halford on the flat. So he might be a bit each way, but I think Gaelic Warrior.
Who's the one you just said?
Ebasari.
Oh, Ebasari. 10s, 12s maybe. George, got a view on it?
Gaelic Warrior is probably, if they're even half right, he's going to be tough to beat, isn't he? But the one, this Champion Green that's a bit further down, sort of 90 rated on the flat, before he switched over to hurdles, is probably value for his 90 rating on the flat as well, with a few eye-catching efforts that have worked out quite well. I thought he could have been a triumph horse before he actually took to hurdles, and then he's basically not tried a jot in any of his starts. He's one that's got a rating of 125 in Ireland, and has been on that, kept that rating over here as well. So given that I thought he probably could have been a triumph horse and he hasn't tried a yard, I'd have to be interested in him. He's only 8-1. With how short Gaelic Warrior is, he might be one that waits for the extra places on the day and have a little bit of a go at him. But to be honest, it feels like you're guessing and you're sort of just waiting to see whether Gaelic Warrior is as good as everyone keeps mustering he might be.
So, Daryl's already alluded to the fact that Gaelic Warrior's form does stack up a bit if you read into it, doesn't it? I'm genuinely baffled why everyone's just jumping on the fucking bandwagon saying that this horse is too short. If this was a handicap hurdle outside of the Cheltenham Festival and Willie Mullins was talking about a horse like this, he would be like 5-4, 6-4 poke. I think it, I know, like we're saying that we haven't seen the horse run under Willie Mullins, but there is some form to go by. It's not like it's an unraced horse. Obviously, he wouldn't be able to give it a handicap mark. I want to go through it now, but I'm conscious we've been going up for a little while, but I can stick some visuals up when I do the edit for this. But you look at some previous juveniles that run in this race. So Diego de Charmille came over for France, first run, won for Paul Nicholls. So no one talked about those sort of things. Everyone just says that Willie Mullins hasn't had a winner of this particular race. You touched on, Dale, that he's not had too many horses that have run under this sort of number before. He has had a few, to be fair. He's had 5 horses in the last, since the Boodles has been invented, that's been single figures for the race, and a couple of them were under 135. There was 132, a 128, a 126. There was a 139 and a 136. But they've been progressively getting better. Saint Sam was second last year. Sealed Edge was in the race. He was making his French debut for Willie Mullins when he was in that race behind Band of Outlaws. That was just an absolute good thing in the race. Like I said, I won't whittle through all of it, but the numbers that this horse has done and the form that's been franked in there, he should have been given a mark in the 140s. And I know they've revised the way that they're doing the markings, but just because the horse should be given that mark doesn't mean it's definitely thrown in. But the fact that they're talking about this horse, and Willie Mullins is coming out and saying these positive things as well. Like I know they've got a jump and things like that. He said he could balloon one and all those sort of things, but any horse could do that. They're all juveniles. They're in there for that reason. When people are talking about horses, like anything that gets mentioned is all single figure prices as well. It's not as if anyone's talking about anything like a monster price for a bit of value. I think this Gaelic Warrior is genuinely a strong bet. So when we touched on horses that we're too far deep into, Gaelic Warrior's starting to get that. Like I can't stop backing him at the price.
What rating did you make him? See if it compares to mine. What did you give it? What did you get?
Well, I haven't done it to a T, but it wouldn't have been 129. The other horses that had run before, that like Sildonage, Diego de Charmille, Sanctuaire was another one from a long time back. That was that one for Paul Nicholls on his second start, that beating Grand Cruz. But they've all run against other French horses, and then the numbers would suggest that he should have been at least a stone higher than any of those. And Diego de Charmille was 133, sorry, and Sildonage was 132. So I could have had him mid 140s.
Oh, well.
Higher than you, was it?
Yeah. Well, what about 137?
But it was being probably generous. And the other thing as well, those Racing Pros ratings over time they do change. So some of those ones I'm going back to like 2010 with Sanctuary, and then 2015 Diego de Charmille. But I hate each way punting, right? Like I'm massive bugbear for it. Anyone that's slightly worried about he might make a mistake, or who knows how he's going to run in a big field, or those sort of things. Let's be honest, he's run in France already, and he's run against 15 runners. He's run against 14 runners. So he's run in big field races already. So let's just nip that in the bud. We know that he's run against good horses because we know the form sort of worked out. If you were to be the muggy each way punter that we could all be, you get extra places on the day, won't you? So let's just say you get a fifth of the odds. They're currently already offering a fifth of the odds, the first 5 places for this horse. And on the day you might get bigger. So even at 5-2, if you backed him each way, if he places for £100 each way, you're going to get £150 back. You're going to lose 50 quid. If he goes and wins, you get 500 quid in there. So I
don't know about that, Dave. I think it's.
How does he play to not win, though, Dave?
Yeah, exactly. This is an all or nothing.
Yeah, but I don't think it is an all or nothing. Like I say, mistakes and things can happen, all those bits and pieces. But like I've backed him on the nose to win. That's all I'm doing. I wouldn't be backing each way. But I still think when people are talking about backing these other horses each way for a bit of place money and things like that, like trying to take a bit of a risk, I've seen people on previews. Like honestly, the last 5 or 6 I've watched, everyone's putting 3 horses up at like 12 to 1, 14s and all that. They're not necessarily all going to place. You're taking a risk trying to put all of those in there, and their bets are going to go in there that are probably going to lose money because they're just trying to take this horse on. I think he absolutely, genuinely think he shits home. And if anyone wanted to be...
What are you backing him each way then?
No, I'm not backing each one. But what I'm saying is, if people want to be risk adverse...
Fucking waffling for no reason then.
Hurry up, Dave.
When everyone's saying that they're worried...
How many Morettis did he have with G before I came on here? Come on.
This is what I mean. People genuinely, and this is no disrespect to you three that's on it, but people just try and blow over it, right? Everyone says that the price has gone on this horse. If you
each way 5-2.
No, but if you did, I think the risk is the only risk would be, say he bumps into a really, really well handicapped horse, because we talk about there could be a load of them. Let's just say for whatever reason he bumps into one, he makes a mistake, and for whatever reason he comes second or third or fourth in here. For the £200 stake that you'd be staking, you're risking 50 quid to potentially win another 300 quid on top. So you're not
just risking 50 quid though. Anyway, move on. Come on.
No, but it juices up the price. Gaelic Warrior, I think he would absolutely shit him in the Boodles, and I think everyone trying to take him on has just been an absolute penis.
Move on.
It's balmy, but this is the mid panel doing it as well. You're all happy to take Willie Mullins' word that appreciate it's going to fucking beat Honeysuckle, but you won't trust that this horse is thrown in when the form is in the book that he's thrown in. He's fine.
We agree. I agree. We agree with you, right? Calm down. We agree with you, but we disagree. We disagree on the fact that it's an each way bet. He's either absolutely thrown in, right, and he hacks up, or something happens and doesn't quite go the way that they've said it's going to go, and he disappoints, or he doesn't like it over in the UK, doesn't travel well, something like that goes wrong. So for me, it's a win or it's a blowout. That's all we're saying. We're not saying that we're against you. So calm down and let's get on to the National Hunt Chase. Order.
He wins.
Well said.
Someone go to the fucking bar there, will you?
And that, right. National Hunt Chase. Couldn't give a shit about the race. Someone will have a go.
Anyway, back in the real world.
Go on then, Jamie. Who do you fancy in the National Hunt?
I think the Lady Meeting is in this, and it's Statler.
All right.
For some reason, I'll take on George's horse in Run Wild Fred because I think he'll just be second. He'll always be beaten by a horse with a little bit of speed in the end. That's just my opinion. He'll probably rock up because he's the most experienced chaser. But you have to remember, he's actually ever won one chase. And that was the Triton. So that was the other one. George is going to fucking kill me the next time he sees me. But anyway, but the one I fancy, and I fancy him for a long, long time, and it's last year's Albert Barton winner, and it's Vanilla. I think he's been set in stone. Watch Carter. Oh, Carter said he can't jump. Right. I really fancy him. I think he's the winner. I really do. I think he'll win it, and I think he'll win it easy. So he's my winner. He's my winner, and I'll stop there now.
George, would you like?
Tell you what, Jamie, there's so many people saying that Run Wild Fred coming second all the time is a negative for his form. Coming second is an Irish national, second is high FCs, second to Fury Road when he's absolutely battered one down the back straight and just got out.
Hold on. Go back what you said there. Go back what you said. Yeah. Battered offence.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. They're there to be jumped.
At least, how does Vanilla jump them? Bloody hell.
Doesn't matter. Vanilla will win.
Fucking hell.
Right. Yeah, well, there's a lot of people saying all these seconds Run Wild Fred is bad form. I don't know how you can say second in an Irish national and second in a high FC.
I understand. That's still he just strikes me a horse that will always be beaten by another horse. It's like Riviera to Sell in the Arkle. They'll always be beaten by something.
He put
I don't know, but I think it's going to be Vanilla. Yeah, I think it's going to be Vanilla.
In that Troy Town, he put a big margin between himself and the rest of the field. And to be honest, I think he's going to do it again here. I agree with you that Statler doesn't really have the experience, doesn't look like he's going to stay, I don't think. I'd probably drop him back.
I agree with you. We said it before, I'd have Statler on the Turners.
I mean, Vanillier's just been battered by them all year, and he jumps so slowly. And I know Cromwell brings them round in spring, but
he'd be a different horse to Cheltenham.
You're putting an awful lot of faith in Gavin Cromwell. There's nothing over fences to make you think that.
We'll see. Fair enough. I actually think it's a 2-horse race, though. Run Wild Fred and Vanilla. I give Statler no chance. Yeah.
Who wins it, George?
Run Wild Fred.
Daryl?
I don't know, but I think Vanilla has gone backwards about £10. People need to get a grip on that Albert Fartlek form last year. It was awful. It was an awful race.
Oscar leads on nothing. Who was third?
It was an awful race, right?
Streets of Doyen for McConnell.
Oh, yeah.
3 under through 5 is the only one that's sort of really progressed over fences, but he's always looked like a chaser. Like that was an awful Albert Bartlett last year, and I can tell you that because I'll tip the winner at 40-1. It was a terrible race. Nothing ran above 145. He looks like he's gone backwards to me. Vanilla fences. He loses too much ground at his fences. He'd be tailed off in this. And how you can pin your hopes on him coming back to Cheltenham and he's a spring horse and all this crap, I don't know. It's absolute nonsense, really. I liked 3 under 3.5 for this, but he's not going to go here. He's going to go to the Brown Advisory. I'd be keen on to see where Jungle Boogie goes. I know he lacks experience and stuff, but I think he's just a very talented horse, just hard to keep sound. Brayside's the other one I'm on at a big price, but he looked like an absolute slow as an old boat, didn't he, at Navan? It'd be interesting that they keep persisting with him, so I'd probably just stick with him. Look, I ain't got a strong opinion in this race. I ain't got a strong opinion at all. Brayside, I'll stick with him at double figure price.
Boom, that wraps up day one.